Lloyd,
Yeah.
what processes have we implemented to double our profits?
Loads of really good ones.
Cool. Are we going to talk about them in this episode?
We could do.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Okay.
I'm excited because I remember when we started our business.
Do you remember the time?
And we didn't have any processes.
We didn't have any processes.
Oh, is it going to be one of those episodes? Are you going to say useful stuff in this one? Or are you just going to...
Sorry, that was just Michael Jackson. He was just sat here while I went to the toilet and then I came back.
So we didn't used to have any processes, did we, Lloyd? Like
Well,
zero. Well,
I would say we did have processes, but we've constantly been improving them. And I suppose we've probably got about 300 processes rather than the one we used to have of like, put the money we earn in this spreadsheet so we can try and know what we're doing.
And I think we've been on a bit of a journey with improving our processes that I think the anchors are going to find useful.
Yeah, and I would say whereas sometimes we, it's like, oh, we're talking about what's happened in our business over the last however many years. This actually has been, in the last couple of years, a big shift. Like we've taken another step forwards. And because I was looking at the, the financial year and stuff, and we've kind of we've had a significant chunk of the year where we had significant changes with our processes and stuff. And it was just nice that I looked at it and actually our profit margin, our kind of profit percentage has doubled since we've done that.
Yeah.
The business hasn't doubled, so we haven't had to grow double the size to create double the profits. We're more efficiently making a profit on the work we do and delivering great work. Yeah. So I want to talk through some of the big shifts in our processes.
I'm just thinking, like, who would this be useful for? Because if it's sort of like, say, a freelancer's listening, a small one-person business, is this useful to them as well as like a massive company that's got thousands of employees? Yeah,
I would say so. I think the absolute perfect person is if you have more than one person. So if there's two of you or more, and that could be in your like department, or that could be the whole business, depending on the size. So if you're like leading a team of people and there's 8 of you, perfect. Or if you're a small business and there's 15 of you, perfect. But some of the processes, if you're just a person on your own, but I would say 2 people and it's all going to be relevant, 2 or more.
And what, like, in terms of priorities, I guess you're going to share lots of great processes and things that people can do to, and what we've done. Yeah. Where would people start? What's the like priority?
My first, so the first process that we've implemented that I would change, and we've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention in a bit more detail about why it's so good and how it's how to work it, is all around the weekly meeting and the and just before you stop listening, I'm not just saying have a meeting because that obviously sounds crap and won't help, but it's how this works and what goes on in this meeting. So we went from, obviously we had meetings previously when like, oh, we're kicking off this project. Okay, let's get together. Or, oh, we want to talk about this. Let's get together. But since we had our weekly, officially it's called a weekly pulse.
Oh, okay.
It's been an absolute game changer. And part of the reason why, so a lot of businesses actually have a monthly meeting to kind of be like, okay, guys, let's reflect on what's happened this month and talk about anything for next month. I think that's quite a common thing. But the issue with that is that you get this this increased level of activity just following any meeting about anything. So say you just have a general meeting about how is the business going this month. In the 2 days after that, you'll have a load of actions for people that are like, oh, right, we need to do that to improve. We need to do that. You have this increase, this spike in activity. Almost looks like a pulse. And that happens once a month. So the idea of having these weekly things is basically...
More pulses?
Exactly. You have more of these spikes in activity to improve things. You're giving yourself in a month 4 or 5 chances to do loads of good stuff to improve things rather than 1 a month. So businesses that grow and improve have this constant thing of going of what we're doing, what do we need to change, rather than reflecting a month later and going, oh, that wasn't good. We've been doing that all that time.
That was one of the things I was going to say. Something that I find really beneficial is a more regular reminder of things that we should be doing to move forward, rather than the once a month thing. It's like, oh, that hasn't quite.
Well, the absolute game changer, nothing shit happens for longer than a week.
That is true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's any part of our business that we're actually not doing this quite right, or like there's been a miscommunication between two people in the team and they think like you're doing it or I'm doing it and it's falling through the cracks. It's then brought up on a Friday and we make a change. And I think obviously like no one's perfect and no business is perfect. If you don't have these opportunities to realize something's not going well and improve it, there's going to be loads of crap stuff going on.
So I reckon anchors are going to be listening or watching, thinking, okay, this weekly meeting thing, the pulse, more regular activity sounds good. What is in the weekly meeting? Or what do I do in a weekly meeting because we kind of mentioned making sure things that are shit don't go on for more than each week.
Yeah.
What do you want to give an insight into what the meetings or what we talk about?
So, yes, I'm going to get into a couple of the different things at the moment. But the main reasons, like we hold each other accountable. So we have a section where we talk through client projects and someone is accountable for that. So if something's not going right, we can ask those questions and talk about it. And we have a section where we can discuss any issues or ideas or anything. And the main thing is like we set actions as part of, we never just go, oh, that's not working. That's you're right, that isn't working. Okay, what's the next thing to discuss? It's always like, oh yeah, that's, whether that needs improvement or, oh, we missed a trick there, like that could have been a bit better, or how can we improve in the future? And then, okay, as an action, who is moving that forward and what are they doing? We write down that action and then the following week we check that it's been done. And it's weird. I think as humans, like even like before this process, we had a brilliant team, but and there's still those brilliant people, but we all need someone just to check it. I feel like even if you're really organized, you need someone to go, have you done that thing yet?
It's the accountability, isn't it?
Yeah. You know that thing you said you're going to do? Have you done it? And the fact that we have a process and it's like, right, each of us, we know the little things we need to get done this week to move things forward and improve. And also to know that your colleagues around you and your friends, it's going to be rubbish if each week you go into it going, nah, I didn't do it again. I mean, obviously that would also highlight to us and management that there's an issue, but none of us want to come in because I'll admit that I'm not perfect. I know it sounds strange.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And when I've missed something and I've come in and I've had to go, I didn't get round to doing that action, it feels rubbish because everyone around you is working hard.
Just points and chants shame.
Yeah, that's our process. So
shame.
I think that's why it's so good. We all hold each other accountable and we're all pushing each other to achieve the best things we can achieve rather than things just getting forgotten. An example of this, right?
Yeah.
This podcast set. Before we had this process of this weekly meeting, I believe it had been 8 months that we kept saying, oh, how's the new podcast set going? When are we going to get started with that? And we started having this weekly meeting and 2 weeks later it was done. And it was because the first week we went, so who's actually going to do this then? And when is it going to happen? And we set the actions and then it got
done.
Yeah.
Simple.
Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that weekly meeting, so important as a process, but going into some stuff that we discuss in that meeting, but key processes, second key process, Stan.
Yep.
Sounds stupidly obvious, so don't judge us that we didn't do this before.
Okay.
But tracking time and money. Sounds stupid, right?
Yeah.
But I think so many businesses are run on just to-do lists of like, oh, I'm working on this thing. Keep doing that. Oh, that took me a couple of weeks getting through that. And you never know what time you're spending on things and that kind of thing. Well, now we've started, and this is something that's reported on in the meeting, so you know it's happening. But now that we're tracking the amount of hours and days that we spend on a project, we can actually know if it's profitable or not. You're like, why are you giggling?
Because I remember when we started the business, and it was you and I, we were more naive. We had no idea how long things took. So we never knew our capacity. So we would just say yes to everything and never know if we had the time to do it or not. Didn't we?
Yeah.
Like, it just
It's like,
sounds mental.
someone wants to work with us. Well, obviously we're going to say yes. So, and then it's the panic of trying to do it. Yeah.
How did we survive?
And the thing is, if you don't track time and stuff, it's like either you're going to do a bad job because you haven't got the time to put into it for your customers, or you're not going to make a profit because the amount of time that goes into something, you're not charging enough. Or the other way around, you charge far too much for the value they're going to get, and then they're going to go, this is absolutely terrible. We're not going to work with you.
It's simple, but it's just so important, isn't it?
Yes.
Track what you're charging for a piece of work and how long it's taking, and make sure you're sticking to the plan.
Because then you can look at it and go, oh, Mary spent 6 days on that project, but when we quoted, we only charged for 2 days. Like, terrible idea. Let's never do that again, Mary. Have you said that? Is it TikTok? Have you seen the video where there's a lady and they're going, Mary, and she's just chasing around looking for who's calling her?
Oh, I have seen that. I saw that today, actually.
Yes, that's me. And she's like running around outside and you're going, Mary. Yeah. Anyway, the name Mary made me think of that. Search Mary video and maybe you'll find it. Also it really, when you're tracking time and money spent on projects, which again sounds so obvious, but I know there's people out there and a lot of businesses out there not doing this accurately. You can look at different types of projects. And if it's like, oh, that thing Steve's been doing, he spends all the contingency of the budget on time and money consistently on that type of project. So we're only making like a 0.1% profit margin. And then there's another type of project where it's like, we only have to, we quoted for 12 days of our team's work. It only takes 5 and the customer's super happy. We're doing great work. You can take actions and invest more time in trying to get projects like that that are far more profitable. You're getting happy customers. Without that, it's just all happening.
It's all guesswork.
And you never know, especially if you're a bigger team and you have levels of management, the management at the top will just be like, well, the projects are getting done. They've been done in the time they're supposed to. By the end of the couple of months, they're supposed to be done. And you can never improve on what you're currently doing.
And from understanding this, from a kind of sales perspective, which is what I'm responsible for, I know how we should, the types of people we should be targeting and what types of projects we want to be doing. So I can shape our messaging and the content we're creating to attract more of those opportunities so that we're doing more work that's more lucrative for us, that we do a better job with, that we enjoy doing, and that actually help us have a sustainable business.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. My next point.
Give me some more processes, Lloyd.
But I feel like everything I say sounds so simple. So don't judge us. I've called this client check. This is part of what we report on in the meeting. But for your business, this could be anything to do. It's basically checking your customers or your clients are happy, however you would do this. For us, we have like a number of clients where we can go through each one, and whoever's responsible, we can check that it's in a good place or in a bad place. And again, that thing we said about how we're basically checking nothing shit happens for longer than a week. If we have any client project where something's not quite right, or we're worried that we're not going to do a good job for that client, within a couple of days, we have that conversation in the meeting, and then we work out actions to make sure they are happy. And I think it sounds so simple, but just each week making sure that you're asking each other the questions, whoever's responsible. We've got this really important customer. Are we doing a good job for them?
Yeah.
Are they happy?
It gets picked up on a weekly basis. Something, maybe we have dropped the ball somewhere, but we can then take the actions to bring that back.
Because we're at the point now where we usually are dealing with it so quickly, we resolve it before our customer's aware of that there could have been an issue, because we're actually picking it up, rather than a problem go on for 4 or 5 weeks and then the customer comes to us and go, really not happy with this. We're picking up before they've had any negative experience. And if you're a product company and you've got, you've got thousands of customers, so you can't say to each one, oh, is Tony Goddard happy with this? Is that a real person's name? I don't know.
It rings a bell. It's probably someone.
Yeah, I tried to make up a name, then I said it, and I feel like I recognise it.
Is it like a family friend or something?
Yeah, probably. Oh, Uncle Tony. But yeah, you can be looking, your reviews. Like if you're looking at reviews each week and you go, oh, it's dropped from a 4.8 out of 5 average to a 4.1.
Why is
Clearly something's happened that you need to address and you can take action. And it sounds so simple just checking that, but it's an absolute game changer for constantly making sure you have happy clients. And also, like spending the time to actually have someone say, yes, everything's fine. I found an interesting thing when you're checking with people if customers are okay or projects are okay, because they normally, I'd say 99%, yeah, it's all fine, and then occasionally it will be followed up with, oh, except they haven't paid and they said they're not really selling those products anymore. They're going a different direction. And it's like, what? You just said yes, they're fine, and then said that stuff, and it's kind of like sometimes a couple of small things have been said with a customer, or you've noticed a couple of different things. And it's just a prompt to get that out there into the room.
Yes. And
have that discussion, which is really useful. And it might be that person has heard, or, say it's a product business as well. Like, oh yeah, it's fine. Except, obviously reviews have gone down a bit because the deliveries now take 2 weeks instead of 1. And then suddenly the person in charge of deliveries that didn't realize that was a case, like, what? Why are they taking 2 weeks now? And then you resolve that issue. Yeah, crazily important. Basically, the process is make sure your customers are always happy.
Yeah.
And it's, really important.
Love it.
Nice.
Give us some more processes, Lloyd.
Okay.
On this really exciting episode. I'm joking. I do generally find this interesting.
My solo episodes did all right.
Yeah. No, honestly, I'm joking. I do this is really useful stuff.
Okay.
Give me some more processes that will help me double my profits, Lloyd.
This one, we're in a real minority with the focus we put on this.
Okay.
Most businesses, it's a box ticking exercise and completely not useful because they don't bother with it. But I'm going to say appraisals, as in we regularly, every 3 months, we sit down with absolutely everyone in our business, one-to-one, and talk through how things are going. That makes it sound rubbish. Talk through a lot of things. And I think these are so undervalued by businesses just because, and I still think some of our team might be like, oh, got to go and sit there and do that. But the value we get from having those conversations, I think, because ultimately people that are here that are brilliant, we want to make sure that they're really happy with their job, that anything they want to try that they're not currently doing, or anything they're doing that they're not enjoying or struggling with, we want to have those conversations so that those brilliant people can be supported to do a brilliant job and continue to be really happy within our business. That makes complete sense for any business who wants to do a good job for their customers, right? And again, like the thing I said of actually asking the question, oh, that client, are they happy? Day to day, things might not come up, but if you actually look someone in the eyes and are you happy with this thing? Or is there anything that you're struggling with? That prompt of actually just focusing on that conversation makes people actually come out with their honest opinion. And it might just be a small thing of oh yeah, it's good, but it's a bit annoying that Steve punches me in the face at lunch.
Okay.
And then you're like, oh, I didn't even see Steve doing that. Okay, I can deal with Steve.
You've got a black eye every
and
day.
say, come on, stop punching Tim.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like it. But there's relatively small things that I just think make a huge difference. So retaining great people and also steering people in the right direction. Again, we're saying, that weekly thing of nothing shit happens for longer than a week because of our weekly pulse meetings. With a review with everyone every 3 months, if, say, we might be working with one of our team and thinking all this stuff, absolutely brilliant. It's there's this little bit that I think actually they're going in a bit of a wrong direction. It's not very good. Being able to give people a nudge every 3 months of oh, by the way, this is all great, but this thing, maybe shift your focus a bit or do this slightly differently.
Them to get better.
Exactly.
It's making them aware of the things they need to be doing.
I think far too many people, managers or business owners or leaders, are thinking shit things about the way people are working,
but not communicating.
But don't communicate anything. And then you think how no one comes to work. Well, very few people come to work and are tell you what, I'm gonna do a shit job today. But there may be things that aren't quite going right, and without having those conversations,
and then they have the opportunity to take the actions needed to improve or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're either going to progress in the business or they're going to get to the point where they.
And I've just found it so useful, and it's that thing. Even if you think things are obvious, I would say the things that you think are obvious, they're not obvious. So many times in appraisals, either I have thought, well, of course they know this thing that we're thinking, or well, of course they know what they're doing with that. And then you actually sit down and it's like, no, it's not obvious. Like either, so it could be someone's absolutely brilliant. And I'm like, well, obviously, you know that we think you're doing a brilliant job. And it's like, oh no, I didn't really know that, but that's really good to hear. Or like, well, of course you know how to do this and you've been doing this. And then they're like, oh no, I haven't been doing that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think don't ever think something's obvious. Make the time and an effort to have those conversations.
It's these simple things that have the biggest impact as well.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying, you're caveating with, this is really simple, but it is those things that have the biggest impact.
It's also giving people the opportunity, having that open thing of like saying critical things to me potentially, or about the business in other areas, that it's like, you know, oh, this is good, but Lloyd, actually, you don't really do this and that's rubbish. And so that we can ask those questions and improve. Yeah. Because I think some people and businesses don't do the appraisals at all and they're like, oh, it's rubbish, so don't get the benefit. Some do it, but purely on a like, right, this is your appraisal. I'm going to tell you what you're good at and what you're not good at and what you need to do. But having the two-way thing is so important, and trying to make sure people are confident to say like, I don't really like how this is done, or you kind of make this hard for me because of this.
Nice.
Do you want one more?
Go on, give me another process.
Okay, one more. If you insist. It's one that I've said, I've mentioned before, so we won't go into a huge amount of detail. People, if you have heard this before, you're a big Business Anchors fan, okay? You know that I love forecasting profit, turnover, and cash flow. And we've worked with an accountant. They're like, you with your accounting, like you focus on this in much more detail than most businesses your side. And I'm always, why are you smiling at me like that?
I was just thinking when you said that, you must be really fun at parties.
Oh yeah.
Go on, sorry.
Hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? I'm pretty big on forecasting cash flow, actually.
Go on. Keep going.
What?
Sorry.
You don't want a second date? Hi. So we worked with a bookkeeper recently, actually, and they were even questioning like, why do you do this? Other businesses don't do this in this much detail. Like, you don't need to do this. And I was obviously like,
yes,
we do, because we want to be better than the average business. And I'll just briefly talk about why I think it's so important.
Please do.
A lot of people, and what we've discussed in the past, is like, you need to be forecasting how much money you're making and how much cash you'll have in like the next few months, because you want to avoid not having enough money. Yeah. Like this disaster thing of like, oh, we can't pay people's wages because we haven't really looked ahead and we didn't know we were losing money. Obviously, that's a really negative thing for the business.
Risk prevention.
But on the other side, and the people don't think about it, if you're really good at forecasting your future state of how much money you have in the bank or how much profit you've made, you can go the other way and actually make sure that you're using all of the funds you have within the business in the most efficient way possible. Because basically anyone in your business, as a business owner, if you're trying to make money, it's like, oh, we've got this pot of 10,000. It's like, how can we make that 10,000 into £20,000? And for us, it would be like investing in people, like hiring more people, or investing in camera gear or anything like that. Without this forecasting, you don't know that you are going to have that money in the bank.
It's a guessing game.
You can't make those clever decisions to invest in things that will help the business in the future. You can't decide to give that person a pay rise because you're concerned that the money's not going to be there in the next 3 months. When they need that pay rise to be motivated to do the best job they can do and to want to stay with you long term. Or you can't buy that new camera or piece of equipment because you don't know it's there. So I'm going to stop talking about processes and cash flow, but that is why forecasting is really good and will help you double your profits.
Well, just a question on that. So and I'm taking the piss, but I do think forecasting and these things have been really beneficial to our business.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's listening and they're like, well, I want to start forecasting, and you can't give a step-by-step thing now because I'm sure there's lots of steps, but when we first started doing this, what resources did we go to, or where did we look for help in how to forecast?
Well, I would say any accounting software you use will have a budget capability. You can look back on every previous month's expenses and base your future budgets on that. So it's like, oh, I spend £190 on cleaners for the office each month. So you can budget that for the future months. You know that you need the office cleaned. That's going to be a cost. And then any sales projection. So either you might work in a service-based business where you're like, I know that we've got this ongoing thing with these customers and this is the money coming in the next 2 months. Or it might be that you're selling products and you have projections based on what's currently happening. And you can kind of say, that's the income we're currently expecting to have. And that will allow you to then see, oh, are we planning on making money or losing money or breaking even in 3 months' time? Are we going to have loads of cash in the bank, or because of timings of when we're paid for certain things or money goes out, are we going to have not much cash at that point?
And we use Xero.
Yeah.
So that like there's software that can help you to do this. And
and with Xero, with the budget manager, it's all built in so you can see what's been spent in the past and put your figures in for the future, and then have a really simple, effective process that doesn't take a lot of time to get to that point.
Cool.
It's not cool.
No, well, useful. Sorry, I should just say
useful.
Useful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lloyd.
I'm a pretty useful guy.
I genuinely think those process changes are going to be really helpful to our listeners.
Good. I hope it is, Anchors.
If they're still awake.
Yeah. And should we wake them up? Oh, you literally did set an alarm to wake them up. That's weird.
Oh, shit. I never do that. Sorry, guys.
Normally we'd cut that out, but that was perfect. That was to wake you up, listeners. Because we're ending that episode now. All right.
If you're still there.
So hopefully the next one's good. All right.
And will we see them in their ears next week?
Probably not after that one. No, of course we will. That was useful. See you in your ears
next week.